All right, great. Good afternoon, everyone. Let's see if we've got some people coming and hanging out with us. Wait just a second for everyone to log on. We are here at the Nature Center today, and it is a nice hot July day, and we are out back of the Natureplex here at the Nature Center. And as you know, we are just still trails only here at the Nature Center. So the Natureplex is still closed, but you can come out and you can hike the trails. Just pay your $5 admission. We're open from Monday through Saturday from 9 to 4. So you should come out and at least hike around on the trails. And we've got some things that we're going to be showing you today. We've got some lizards, because it's lizard season, and we've got someone here to talk to you about lizards. We've got our very own Miss Tammy, one of our naturalists, and many of you probably know Miss Tammy. You've probably come out and done a field trip or a program or seen her on the weekends, and so Miss Tammy is going to share with you some of our lizard friends, and these are our education animals and maybe a few extra little visitors to talk to you about how cool lizards are. All right.
Okay, so I was thinking, what kind of nature can you see outside right now happening at your house? And of course, lizards came up. So, what makes something a lizard? In all honesty, lizards are reptiles, just like snakes, turtles, alligators, crocodiles, and tortoises. They are cold-blooded, they lay eggs, and some lizards have 4 legs, and some lizards do not. Lizards have ear holes, and some have eyelids, but not all lizards have eyelids. And some lizards are closely related to our snake friends. So let's find out some of the lizards that we have that live here with us in Alabama. I'm going to start off talking to you about one of my favorite lizards. And I think he's my favorite lizard because I can catch him. I don't know about you, but personally, I want to be hands-on with nature. I like to investigate, and I like to touch, and I like to explore. And here is an animal that you can explore safely. And what I mean is the animal will not hurt you if you touch it or hold it, and you will not hurt the animal if you touch it and you hold it, except for one thing. Anybody know what that is? What is the one thing that you can do that might harm a lizard? I'll let you think about that for a couple minutes because I know you know the answer. But these are my favorite, and here in our little container I have 2 fence lizards. Now, in this container there's a boy and there's a girl. And fence lizards, like drier wooded habitats, they are all over Alabama. You can see them climbing trees, you can see them running on the ground, you can see them on fences or in piles or on rocks. They like deciduous woods also, drier places more than wetter places. You can see they're kind of nervous. I don't know if you can see our little boy over here. He's the small one. He's breathing really hot and heavy right now because he's scared. He's thinking, oh no, she's gonna eat me. And here's his friend, the little girl fence lizard. Did you know that in some reptiles, kind of like birds, that the females are larger than the males? Check out my little lizard friend. Do you see their very long toes and the claws at the end of their toes? I don't know if you can see that there or not. These lizards have keeled scales. They're very spiky, and if you look at them, their color varies a little bit from lizard to lizard. The more excited they get, just like some of our other reptile friends, the brighter their colors get. If you look at our little male over here, his back is very rusty colored right now. In fact, some people call them rusty jacks or rusty backs. Do you see his blue? Look at this. Check out his chest. That brilliant blue color helps him do 2 things. One, he's territorial. He has to protect his space for a female mate. So, when he sees another male that's competing with him, one of the things that he'll do is he'll head bob and he'll do push-ups and say, hey, this is my space. And a lot of times fence lizards do not confront each other. It also helps him to attract the female of the species. He's got cool push-ups.
So Crystal Master says squeeze it. Is that what we don't want to do?
Well, you don't want to squeeze it too hard because you could hurt him. He does have fragile bones, and he's got very fragile little fingers. Now, he's strong. He can climb up and down trees. He can go over your head in a heartbeat on a tree. So you don't want to hurt his toes, but something else can happen to our lizard friends as well. They have a very unique adaptation that helps them to escape predators. Okay, we're going to pull up our little fence lizard here.
Nope.
This is the boy. Gives you a chance to look at his cool fingers and his claws one more time.
Madison says tails easily come off.
Go Madison! That's it. So, lizards will lose their tails. They can shed their tails if you are catching them. And they'll shed their tail and leave it behind. And then hopefully the other animal who is chasing it will be distracted by the wiggling tail and eat it. And the lizard has a chance to escape. Now, he can grow them back. But I will tell you it takes a lot of energy to grow a lizard tail back. So, he uses up some of the energy he would be using in order to find his food, his mate, or defend his space. So, you want to try not to pull off their tails. Now, these lizards have a tongue with a sticky end on it, or kind of like glue on the end of his tongue. And so he catches his insects by climbing around on the trees or scurrying under leaf litter on the forest floor, sticking out that tongue and gulping up his food. They are wonderful to have around your house and your garden. They will eat all of your little buggy pests. Lots of variety of things that they'll eat. And his eyelids. This lizard has eyelids up and down. He's pretty cool. Okay, eastern fence lizard, time for you to go up. Oh, look at the girl. Hey, Kristen, can you catch it? She just caught a bug to eat. She was opening and closing her mouth. It was in there. All right. Here you go, buddy. They're a little warm. They're doing great. Okay, fence lizards, I'm going to put you back. And we're going to go to our next species. Oh, look, she is sticking out her tongue a lot today. We're going to go to the next species. So now we have, I bet you guys know what this is. Check her out. Or him. Honestly, I'm not sure. I think this is, I don't know. So, the green anole. This lizard hangs out kind of in a different space than the fence lizard, so they don't compete, even though it eats insects as well. This lizard is a climbing lizard like the fence lizard, but it has different adaptations. Adaptations are things that plants or animals have that help them to live better in their spaces. So this is a climbing lizard that doesn't have quite the same big claws that the fence lizard had. They have multiple scales on the bottom of their feet in toe pads, enlarged areas at the end of their toes that have little tiny hairs in them that help them to hold on to things. They can hold on to walls or bark or smooth leaves, and they can be found arboreal in the trees. You'll find them a lot in bushes or on plants. And the anoles you may have heard called chameleons because they very distinctly change colors. It could be changing color because, like you think, you're right, because of the camouflage with the habitat that they are in, or they change colors because of their mood. Hormones cause them to secrete chemicals that help them to change colors, and the more fearful or angry or hot, accepting a mate, looking for a mate, the brighter the color gets. So these lizards change from green to brown and brown to green. Those are the most common color changes that they make. You'll see he's got 2 eyelids, just like the fence lizard, and those special toe pads. He also has a very distinctive tongue that he sticks out, sticky on the end, and catches insects with. This animal will walk along a tree branch and glean insects while he's walking along the twigs. I'm going to let Miss Kristen take him out. Hold on a second.
I'll put it down.
Step back and let you grab him. So the Carolina Anole there is a fun pet to keep at home. As far as keeping at home pets go, Carolina Anoles will do well in a terrarium if you wanted to find one outside and keep him for a little while. This animal needs places to climb. It needs to have places to hide, and it needs to have moisture inside its little terrarium. So it doesn't need a water bowl, but it does need to be misted once or twice a day so that it has some water to drink. It'll lap up the little water droplets. What was it? Oh, there's a couple of cool things about this guy too. Do you know what? So, when Carolina Anoles or green Anoles are competing for territories, the boys have a dewlap. You may have seen it. That bright skin patch underneath their chin. When they are trying to threaten another one off, they will blow it up, it will turn red, and then it will go back in again. They do that when they are competing for territories with other males, or, kind of like the fence lizard, when they want to attract a mate. That's how they do it. Check out those toes, guys. Do you see them? The little fat toe pads? They're amazing. The things they can hold on to.
Accidentally turned the screen around. Trying to zoom in on these tiny little toes. There we go.
Now, these guys are one of the anole species in Alabama. There's another species called the Cuban anole. They have found their way here into southern Alabama, the Cuban anoles. It's a little bit bigger species, and for the most part, they kind of hang out 3 meters or below, you know, from bottom part of the tree and on the ground. But if you live in southern Alabama, if you live in Florida, southern Georgia, you probably have seen these Cuban anoles. They tend to be a little larger, a little darker. They're not too competitive with our green anoles, so they can hang out here. They've been brought in on house plants or, you know, the plant trade, different things. But they do exist here. Now, some of the male lizards have big heads, and they win their battle for fighting of space by biting each other. The one with the strongest bite usually wins. And some of them kind of have face-offs on twigs. They line up, they face each other, and the one that knocks the other one off wins. He gets to keep the space. And they are extra special jumpers. I want to go back to the fence lizard for just 1 minute because there's something I forgot to say, and it's really cool. So my fence lizard buddies over here, you see the blue patch on the boy's chest and chin? So there was a study done, and here's what we know. Lizards see colors. We know that if you hunt fence lizards in dark blue, you are more likely to catch one than if you hunt fence lizards in the color red, because they're used to seeing that blue color, that visible color. The other thing is, if you look on the spot around the little aquarium, you'll see an ant. That is one of their favorite foods. In fact, fence lizards can eat fire ants. Did you know that? Now, here's the problem with that. Those fire ants that have moved into our area can also eat baby fence lizards. So, there's a conflict of interest. Big fence lizards, like fire ants, little fence lizards can be eaten by them. All right, moving on. So those are one set of lizards we have here in Alabama. Here's the second set. These guys are called skinks. Skinks have very smooth scales. You may have seen this guy running around your house. He happens to be very large. This is the largest of our skinks. He's a broad-headed skink, and the males during mating season get those bright red heads. And I've heard them called scorpions. I've heard them called other things. I've heard them called venomous. They are not. They are not. But he is a tree-climbing, ground-crawling skink lizard. He has ear holes. He does have little teeth in his mouth. Check out his jaw. It is especially big or chomping and crunching on insects and small arthropods that it finds on the ground. Very good at it. But guess what? He doesn't have the sticky thing on the end of his tongue. His tongue can actually sense chemicals, kind of like you may have heard that snakes do. So he could crawl along the ground, and he also moves. Look at his body. He's got that S shape on him. He has that serpentine shape, and look when he walks. He can sense on the ground where a female broad-headed skink has been, based upon the chemicals that he tastes with his tongue, and sometimes they can even use those chemicals to hunt as well. He's got a very tasty tongue. Now, he's very fast. Check out his long claws. He's a good climber and a good runner on the ground. So we're not going to pick him up because I tell you what, Miss Tammy is afraid that I will let him get away, and then we won't have a fence lizard for you to see when you come and visit us here at the Nature Center. Now, a cousin of his is the five-line skink. In fact, when broad-headed skinks are small, they are juvenile, they look just like five-line skinks, and you almost have to have them in hand to tell the difference between them. They have the same color patterns, there's just a few differences in their scales. A week ago, maybe 2 weeks, we were moving some rocks. I don't know, it was just last week. And when I picked up a rock, I found a mama five-line skink wrapped around all of these itty-bitty tiny baby skinks. Look how small he is. So skinks will lay their eggs, and the mama skink will stay with it until the eggs hatch. Now, the broad-headed skinks, as soon as those eggs hatch, will be off and gone, but she will protect her nest. The five-line skink will actually stay and help her babies get out of their eggs. She'll help them break the eggs, get out, and set them off on their way. And that is different than either the fence lizard or the anole that we talked about earlier, who lay their eggs and leave them to hatch on their own. You probably have seen five-line skinks and broad-headed skinks running around the grounds around your house. And let me tell you, one of their things that they're really good at eating are spiders. I like to have them around my garden. They do good stuff. So those are skinks. You'll also notice while you're looking at them that they have very smooth scales. Oh, did you see his tongue? His little tiny tongue came out. Now, they have hard tongues. The other lizards have hard tongues. The Carolina anole and the fence lizard have sticky tongues. I'm going to show you one more lizard that we have here in Alabama. There's a few different kinds, but this is a Turkish house gecko. Now, this little guy you may find if you live in an urban area that has big buildings. So they were brought over here. They are not considered an invasive species, this little gecko, because they take up a niche or a place to live where others of their kind or others that are competing for the same space and food do not live. These little house geckos, Turkish house geckos, will overwinter in places that are warm. So if you have a heating ducts, if you have a basement, if you have any place where they can get warm and there is a colony in your area, this one came from Prattville, they will survive the winter. They hunt at night. They are actually a nocturnal lizard. Now, like the anole, the little pads on their feet have lots of scales, and that is how they stick to the walls and the places where they live. And this little lizard has an adaptation different than the others. One of the things that makes them hard to catch or difficult is that their skin sheds easily. That's an adaptation, again, to help them escape from predators. If their skin sheds, they'll leave it behind and it will heal, and the next time they shed their skin, it'll be all fresh and new again. Little Turkish geckos. Oh, and their tongue is long enough to clean their eyes. Check him out. No eyelids. Here's a different thing. But his tongue can clean his eyes for him. Miss Kristen has a great pet that she's going to share with you now. I am going to let her share with you her crested gecko so she could tell you a little bit about its adaptations, and you can see some of those things bigger since our Turkish gecko, house gecko, is so small.
So this is a gecko. It's from a place called New Caledonia, so it's not from around here. It's not from North America. And this gecko is called a crested gecko or an eyelash gecko. As you can see, it has these little protrusions above its eye that make it look like it has eyelashes. And it is very closely related. It's a gecko, so it's related to our other little gecko friend here. And being that it's a little bit bigger, we can look at some of these cool gecko adaptations. So it's got this long tongue, so you can see, and it doesn't have eyelids, so it's being able to use its tongue to clean its eyes. And it does have these sticky toe pads. And so you can actually look at these toes. They are not clawed, long and clawed, like our other lizard friends, but they're actually sticky. And it looks like he's wearing little slippers. And so he is actually a very good jumper. They're an arboreal species, like we talked earlier when it came to the Anole. So they can jump, and they like to live in the trees. Let's see if we can get him to jump. I mean, he's still kind of young. He can get bigger. Let's see if we jump. Not going to jump for us. And they have this cool tail that they use, and they use it kind of like a possum uses their tail. It curls around things. Now, unlike a lot of other lizards, if their tail breaks, it will not grow back. So we have to be very careful with their tail. But they can use their tail to curl around, wrap around things to help them climb. This gecko is actually, it is an omnivore, so it eats both insects, but also, it's looking at that ant. But it also eats mostly fruit. So in the wild, it would eat overripe or rotting fruit, and so we're able to feed it some things like that, but it mostly likes it in a mash, so mashed up, almost like kind of like baby food. Although we don't feed it baby food, we actually feed a special crested gecko diet to make sure he's getting all the vitamins and stuff he needs, but it looks just like baby food, mushed up. But they would find rotting fruit and stuff like that, or overripe fruit that's all mushy, and that's what they like to eat, in addition to bugs, maybe even some bugs that are in the fruit. But you're able to really look at some of the cool things he's got going on. Now, he can change colors too, and so a lot of these geckos have different colors and patterns, and when they get upset or scared, they'll change their colors and become really bright. So they can, when they're calm or happy, they're a very dull color. But if they get upset, their colors can brighten. And so some of his colors are starting to brighten up now. Let's see if I can get him to jump. He is an excellent jumper. Just may not be in the mood to jump right now. He is showing off his tongue. So he's going and putting out his tongue.
So geckos can kind of do that taste thing as well. The chemical receptors in their tongues. Kind of like the snakes, picking up chemicals.
Very interested in all the ants around. I think that's very distracting. Let's see if he'll jump.
He says there are no ants on your hand.
No, they're on the... Oop! And he caught himself with
Yay!
his sticky toe pads.
Little gecko.
Good job. So,
I want to show you one thing really quick. This is a fantastic resource that we have found, Lizards and Snakes of Alabama. That's one place to investigate more about lizards and snakes and some of our reptile friends. It's a terrific series, and I really enjoy it. Miss Kristen is going to show us a tool for helping us to investigate and look at lizards.
So as Miss Tammy said, lizards are one of those things that you can, if you're careful, you can catch lizards and investigate them up close. And so this is something that you can do, that you can make at home, to where you can catch lizards yourself. And so I'm going to show you how to make what's called a lizard noose. And so scientists actually use lizard nooses too when they are studying lizards. And all you need is a long stick and some dental floss. That's right, dental floss. And so you take your long stick, preferably longer than this, but this is what I found right at the moment, and tie your dental floss along the end of your stick. And then the other end of your dental floss, I'm going to make a little loop that's going to stay in place. So I turn in my loop together like this. I wrap it around and tie it like that, nice and tight, so that this little hole isn't going to move. So now I have a little loop here. Now what I want to do is take the rest of my string, my dental floss, and pass it through this loop. Now I have a bigger hole that will move, and it will tighten. So you have to be careful, because since this hole tightens, you don't want to pick up your lizard with your noose, because you can hurt it. So this is just to catch it long enough so you can grab it with your hand. So if you're too scared to grab a lizard with your hand, don't use the noose, okay? So we're going to make this big enough. I make it big like this, and the nice thing about dental floss is it slips real easy, but it also holds its shape. So we want it to hold its shape like this. And I have a couple of practice lizards. Here are my practice lizards. They are my plastic lizards. And I can take my noose, and if you wiggle it in front of a lizard, they will think it could be food, and usually they stare at it, and then I can slip it over their head, and it takes a while to practice, and then it will close up, and it doesn't tighten all the way usually, but it's enough to where you can grab your lizard, okay? And you don't want to pick up your lizard with the noose. Okay, so I'm going to practice with this other little lizard. If you have some little plastic lizards, you can practice.
And I read in that fantastic field guide that we do have some Texas horned lizard populations in Alabama. One of them happens to be Montgomery.
That's what this
very interesting
is. So, and I would grab my lizard with my hand. I wouldn't pick it up with my noose, and then I would quickly take the noose off, because I don't want the lizard to hurt itself. And then I would have it in my hand so I could look at it and see it and examine it, and then when I was done I could let it go. So you can use this to catch your lizards and see what you can find. And if you do catch a lizard, make your own little lizard noose and catch your own lizard in your backyard. We want to see a picture of it and share it with us. You can put it on the comments of this video and share a picture of you with your lizard and your lizard noose.
Excellent. Just a couple more things I wanted to mention. If you would like lizards to live near you, there's a couple things that lizards really like. So first of all, they need to have cover, right? We talked about trees and vegetation. We know that green anoles like those. We know that fence lizards like the trunks of trees. If you will stand for a moment over there at our fire pit, you can see the rocks put together. You can build rock walls, rock structures, layer the rocks together in order to increase habitat. Lizards like to hide in between those little rocks. The rocks keep them warmer in the wintertime and of course cooler in the summertime. They'll come out and bask in the sun and then run right back in between there. But guess what else? They can hunt lots of little tiny insects that live in there as well. You can make not a rock wall. You have a few bricks. You can put them together and decorate nicely. We'll do the same kind of thing to increase your lizard habitat. And piles of, not huge piles, but little piles of wood or sticks, places for them to hide and crawl around, find insects, and stay protected are good. Well, thanks for sharing lizards with us today.
Yeah. All right, if you like this video, please like, Actually like it on Facebook, leave us a comment, share on your page with your friends so that we know you appreciate these videos and we can keep making videos like this. It really helps us out a lot. And come and tune in next Friday for another live naturalist chat. Hope you have a fantastic weekend.